Are your spider senses tingling? Because in this video, we're going to be making your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Let's go! For all my amigurumi, I like to use a 4mm G hook. You're also going to need a yarn needle, scissors, and for yarn colors, I like to use worsted weight yarn for all my amigurumi. You're going to need a flat white, flat black, red, and blue. So first we're going to start with making the first leg. For Spider-Man, obviously he has 2 legs, so we're going to make the first leg first. So let's start with the color red and do a magic ring 10 or a magic circle 10. So that is 10 single crochets in a magic ring, and then we tighten it up. Now, I don't like to tighten it up all the way on that first, like right away. I like to do the next round, which is round 2 in back loops only, a single crochet of 10, and then I'll tighten it up after. That way it's a little bit easier to get your stitches in for that first row after the magic ring. So here you can see I just tighten it up. I cut off the loose end there, and then we're going to be continuing with the rest of the leg. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is just a couple single crochets here. And just single crochet all the way around here. I'm using a loose yarn end for my stitch marker. You're welcome to use any stitch marker that you want to. I find that for me, the loose yarn end tends to be a little bit quicker for me. Alright, now let's change to the color blue. And then we're going to be going in the back loops here. And we're going to single crochet 10 all the way around, just making sure to stay in those back loops. Now, for my color changes for this, I'm going to be doing pretty quick color changes. Now, it does leave a kind of a little step in the coloration there, but for the sake of the video and for the sake of time, we're going to be just doing quick color changes. Now, if you want to have a seamless or a kind of a semi-straight color change, all you have to do is basically tie off and then start a new the new row with a new yarn. Round 6, go ahead and single crochet 10, and then that'll be the last row for the foot here. So we're going to complete leg 1 just by again tying off. And how I tie off is I will slip stitch into the next stitch once you're done with the round, and then I'll chain 1 and pull through, and that just kind of tightens everything up. For the second leg, just go ahead and complete the exact same thing you did for the first leg. And then we're going to be attaching the 2 legs together. So if you've never connected 2 legs together, I'll show you a little trick to do it. Basically what we're doing is we're going to single crochet into the first stitch on the other leg. So here I am single crocheting, and then since one leg is 10 stitches and the other leg is 10 stitches, we want to end with 20 stitches. So it's really important to count your stitches here. So I count 10 stitches because that's one leg, and then I'll jump to the other leg, count another 10, and then before you go on to the next row, just make sure that you count every single stitch to make sure you do have the 20. It's very easy to miss a stitch, and it's very easy to, stitch an extra one here too. So you don't want Spider-Man to be all lopsided, so we're going to double check, just make sure, and then we'll move on to the next round. So for round 8, single crochet 4 and then increase, repeat that 4 times. I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. And then we're going to switch colors to red here. So for the next 2 rounds, it's just a single crochet of 10. I try to prevent sewing in loose ends as much as I can. So you'll see here I'm just knotting on the inside the loose yarn ends. And there's going to be a lot of loose yarn ends to tie in during this project. For this next part, I'm gonna kind of, tie together the hole in between the legs. Sometimes when you're doing this, it does create a little hole in between the legs. So here I am going through there, and it's an arbitrary location. You don't have to, do one stitch a certain way or one stitch another way. Just go ahead and sew them through, just to kind of close that gap a little bit. And then for the next part, and actually the rest of the toy here, we're going to be using quite a bit of color work here. It is pretty advanced because you have to make sure you're maintaining your attention throughout the entire project. And I'll show you here when we switch colors. So basically, again, there's going to be a lot of loose yarn ends throughout this project. It's going to look like a rat nest inside, but a good way to kind of keep semi-control of everything is to just kind of knot them on the inside and just go one at a time. And when you knot the two colors together, just make sure that you're not pulling too hard to create too much tension, and you're not pulling too loose as well. If you pull too loose, then it's going to create a little hole where you'll see the stuffing, and if you pull too tightly when you're making that knot, when you're tying those loose yarn ends in, then you're not going to be able to single crochet when you go for the next round. So here you'll see each of the stitches are colored differently here. I've colored them according to what color you need to do those stitches in. Round 11 is a little tricky. Once we get to this black portion that I'm doing here, that is during an increase. So an increase is going to be 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. The first single crochet in that 1 stitch of the increase, the first part of the increase, is going to be in black, and the second part is going to be in red. If you like, you're more than welcome to create just red and not even use the black, and then embroider the actual spider on Spider-Man's chest there. This is I'm trying to keep it all crochet if possible, so that's why I'm doing so many color changes here. And I mean, it's not the most accurate spider in the world, but it gets the point across. But again, if you want to, you can definitely do all red. You can skip that whole black part, and then you can embroider an actual spider on there. But for those who don't know how to embroider, and or just don't really want to, or don't have the time to, or just want to keep the whole thing a pure crochet project, this will work for you. So as you can see, there's tons of loose yarn ends in there. I'm gonna knot each of them together. Again, pulling very gently but firmly enough. It's got to be the perfect pressure to make sure that you don't tighten it too tightly. You want to make sure that those stitches still look about the same width as before. And here I am just kind of knotting all those loose yarn ends. I like to leave a little bit of room here when I cut them off, but I don't like these big tails hanging off there. If you cut it too short to it, it can actually untangle, and then that's going to create a bunch of problems. And if you cut it too long, then you've got just tons and tons of yarn inside there. So probably too long is better than too short. So try to err on the side of maybe cutting them a little bit longer if you can. So here I am just kind of finishing up these loose yarn ends here. Alright then, moving on to round 12. Again, there's going to be quite a bit of color changes here. Okay, so now you want to kind of stuff the torso here. You've just finished the torso of Spider-Man. So first I like to stuff the feet, and just use a little bit of stuffing when you're actually stuffing the feet. You don't want to stuff too much, and you want to make sure they're still evenly stuffed too as well. So I like to use polyfill for my projects. I find polyfill is a little bit better than some of the other brands that I've used. But again, you're welcome to use any stuffing that you want to. Now we're going to be starting with the head here, or we're going to be continuing on with the head. With the head, we're going to go ahead and start with the back loops only, single crocheting and increasing 12 times, just an alternating of the single crochet and the increase. And again, this will be in red. Basically, the rest of the project is still going to be color worked. So we're now going to start with, you know, how Spider-Man has those eyes there, and he's basically wearing a jumpsuit. I think it's like a jumpsuit. So it's supposed to have the appearance of just one piece here. So we're going to be moving on and getting to the eyes, and it's going to be quite a bit of color changes here. So just make sure that we're counting our rows and double counting our rows just to make sure everything is correct. Okay, so So here we are about finishing up the head. Once we actually finish the head, I like to stuff it as late as possible. You're welcome to stuff it a little bit earlier if you want to, and then just gradually stuff them. Just make sure that the stuffing's always even. That way, you know, it's not distorted or anything when you actually stuff him. Now, I'm going to tie off here. How I like to tie off is I will do basically I'll run a yarn needle through the front loops of everything, all those last 6 stitches, and then I'll just pull really tightly, and then that will kind of tighten up the top portion of the amigurumi toy there. And then you'll take the yarn needle and send it through the center of Spider-Man's head, and then kind of pull it out through the side, and then just run it through, you know, a couple times just through the stitches. And that just basically will keep that, so you'll see me pulling it there through, and then I'll just run it through the stitches here, and that'll just kind of stabilize it a little bit too. So that is the Spider-Man head, and then afterwards I'll just kind of make sure all the stuffing is in the correct place here, just kind of round them off a little bit. Alright, so the torso's all done. We're going to move on to the arms. So for the arms, we're obviously going to be making 2 arms for Spider-Man, Mr. Peter Parker. And we're going to start with the color red. Go ahead and do a magic ring 8 with red. And then after we're done with that magic ring, go ahead and continue with just some single crochets until we're actually going to switch to the color blue later, and that'll be at round 5. So we're going to go ahead and change to the color blue. And then from rounds 5 to 7, it's just a single crochet of 8. And here I am knotting that loose end again. I don't like to knot the loose end right away, so I'll do like a couple stitches and then knot it. It's just a little easier for me. So that's why I went a couple stitches before I knotted those loose ends together. And again, this is not a seamless color change here, but if you want to do a seamless color change, all you have to do is tie off and then tie a whole new yarn on. Alright, so go ahead and finish the second arm. It's basically going to be the exact same thing as the first arm. I don't stuff these arms. I like them to kind of lie off to the side a little bit, but you're welcome to stuff them if you want to. Once you're finished with these arms, then what I like to do is I like to fold them flat, and then I'll kind of sew with a yarn needle in between them just to kind of tighten those arms up a little bit here. So that's what I'm doing right here. And then after that, then I'll attach them to the body. And here I am attaching the arms to the body. I hope you enjoyed this video making Peter Parker from Marvel's Avengers, the Spider-Man. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I'd love to see how they turned out too as well. You can find me on Instagram at Knotmonster. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Happy crocheting, everyone.